This is part 2 of Lois Lowry's acceptance speech. I'm beginning on page 142 of the speech. Sometimes we study and we get good grades because we're all the cream of the crop, the valedictorians and class presidents from our high schools all over the United States. One of the girls in our dorm is not like the rest of us. She doesn't wear our uniform. She wears blue jeans instead of skirts, and she doesn't curl her hair or knit or play bridge. She doesn't date or go on fraternity parties and dances. She's a smart girl, a good student, a pleasant enough person, but she is different, somehow alien, that makes us uncomfortable. We react with a kind of mindless cruelty. We don't tease or torment her, but we do something worse. We ignore her. We pretend that she doesn't exist. In a small house of 14 young women, we make one invisible. Somehow, by shutting her out, we make ourselves feel comfortable, familiar, safe. I think of her now and then as the years pass. Those thoughts, fleeting but profoundly remorseful, enter the current of the river. In the summer of 1979, I am sent by a magazine I'm working for to an island off the coast of Maine to write an article about a painter who lives there alone. I spend a good deal of time with this man, and we talk a lot about color. It is clear to me that although I'm a highly visual person, a person who sees and appreciates form and composition and color, this man's capacity for seeing color goes far beyond mine. I photograph him while I am there, and I keep a copy of his photograph for myself because there's something about his face, his eyes, which haunt me. Later, I hear that he has become blind. I think about him. His name is Carl Nelson from time to time. His photograph hangs over my desk. I wonder what it was like for him to lose the colors about which he was so impassioned. Now and then I wish, in a whimsical way, that he could have somehow magically given me the capacity to see the way he did. A little bubble begins, a little spurt, which will trickle into the river. In 1989, I go to a small village in Germany to attend the wedding of one of my sons. In an ancient church, he marries his Margaret in a ceremony conducted in a language I do not speak and cannot understand. But one section of the service is in English. A woman stands in the balcony of that old stone church and sings the words from the Bible. Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. How small the world has become, I think, looking around the church at the many people who sit there wishing happiness to my son and his new wife, wishing it in their own language as I am wishing it in mine. We're all each other's people now, I find myself thinking. Can you feel that memory too? Is a stream that is now entering the river? Another fragment, my father nearing 90, is in a nursing home. My brother and I have hung family pictures on the walls of his room. During a visit, he and I are talking about the people in the pictures. One is my sister, my parents' first child, who died young of cancer. My father smiles, looking at her picture. That's your sister, he says happily. That's Helen. Then he comments a little puzzled, but not at all sad. I can't remember exactly what happened to her. We can forget pain, I think, and it is comfortable to do so. But I also wonder briefly, is it safe to do that, to forget? That uncertainty pours itself into the river of thought, which will become the book. 1991. I'm in the auditorium somewhere. I have spoken at length about my book, Number the Stars, which has been honored for the 1990 Newbery Medal. A woman raises her hand. When the turn for her question comes, she sighs very loudly and says, "Why do we have to tell this Holocaust thing over and over? Is it really necessary?" I answer her as well as I can, quoting, in fact, my German daughter-in-law, who has said to me, "No one knows better than we Germans that we must tell this again and again." But I think about her question and my answer a great deal. Wouldn't it, I think, playing devil's advocate to myself, make for a more comfortable world to forget the Holocaust? And I remember once again how comfortable, familiar, and safe my parents had sought to make my childhood by shielding me from elsewhere. But I remember, too, that my response had been to open the gate again and again. My instinct had been a child's attempt to see for myself what lay beyond the wall. The thinking becomes another tributary into the river of thought that will create the giver. Here's another memory. I'm sitting in a booth with my daughter in a little Beacon Hill pub where she and I often have lunch together. The television is on in the background behind the bar, as it always is. She and I are talking. Suddenly, I gesture to her. I say, shh, because I've heard a fragment of the news, and I'm startled, anxious, and I want to hear the rest. Someone has walked into a fast food place with an automatic weapon and randomly killed a number of people. My daughter stops talking and waits while I listen to the rest. Then I relax. I say to her in a relieved voice, "Oh, it's all right. It was in Oklahoma, or perhaps it was Alabama or Indiana." She stares at me in amazement that I have said such a hideous thing.